Course introduction about AWS. Let's first try to understand what is cloud computing. Cloud computing refers to the on-demand remote availability of resources such as computing power, data storage, networking, and so on, without any direct management by the user. The cloud computing, if you break this word into two parts, one is cloud and the other one the computing, let's try to understand the meaning of this particular technology. Cloud is the network of all the computing devices. Now, what all computing devices that we know? It could be a server, it could be a storage device, it could be any networking device as well. All of them integrated together to form a cloud, and the access of those infrastructure are given to the remote user over the internet in the form of the services. That's what the cloud computing services mean in a very layman language. The companies that provide cloud computing services are called cloud providers or cloud service providers, like AWS, Amazon Web Services. This is a cloud service provider. Microsoft Azure is a cloud service provider. Google Cloud Platforms, Oracle Cloud. These are some of the examples of some big cloud service providers in the market. The services are made accessible to users over the internet, and that's the biggest advantage of using the cloud computing platforms. People can access the cloud computing services, they can access the cloud computing infrastructure remotely over the internet from any device. If they are traveling, if they are in any other location, if they are not carrying their laptops, still they would have the access of resources. The cloud providers ensure large-scale management of the services. Mostly the infrastructure management, service management, and the dependencies are taken care by the cloud providers in the backend. Now let's try to understand what is AWS. AWS stands for Amazon Web Services, and it is one of the top cloud service providers in the market, and that offers over 200 on-demand cloud services. AWS is a very dynamic cloud service provider. It keeps on adding up its services, it keeps on modifying things, and now by the year 2022, you can have around 200 plus services which you can access over the AWS platform. The services are extended to individuals, companies, and government on a pay-per-use payment model as well. The best thing about the AWS is anyone can access the AWS platform. They just need to create their credentials with simple information along with the debit or the credit card information that needs to be provided. The services are extended to individual companies and governments on a pay-per-use payment model. Means the services can be accessed by anyone, and the person who access the services of AWS have to pay only for the duration they are using those services. Why AWS? There can be many benefits. We know that cloud computing is very much available these days. A lot of companies are opting cloud computing technologies. They are moving their resources on the cloud computing platforms like AWS and all. There has to be some good reasons to migrate. What are those? The AWS provides the reliability. It's a very reliable platform, as well as the services that are offered. They are reliable, managed by the AWS in the backend. AWS provides you ample of security that you can implement on your resources. So there is something called shared responsibility model that the AWS talks about. Some of the responsibilities the cloud or the AWS is going to own, and some of the responsibilities we as an admin have to take care. However, whenever we plan a security on the cloud, it is something we need to follow with the best practices that the AWS recommends. Scalability. Scalability is one of the major advantage of using the AWS platform. They give a huge, enormous access of their infrastructure in the form of services, and the resources can be scaled in any time. For example, Let's say if you are looking for a capacity, a storage of more than 20 GB or 50 GB, 100 GB, you can scale at any time. The resources are available. Similarly, it applies to other services offered by the AWS. Cost effectiveness. Since the AWS gives us pay-as-you-go model, payment on usage, it becomes a cost-effective environment. It becomes a cost-effective platform. The reason is we don't have to procure any infrastructure. There is no one-time cost that is involved. And they give us the subscriptions offers as well. So let's say if we know that we are going to use that particular service for 1 year or 3 years, likewise, we get some discounted rates as well. Apart from that, it gives us a very good infrastructure in terms of planning a disaster recovery, business continuity plans, and almost you can save around 90 to 100% cost if you do a comparison with the on-prem environments. So that's what AWS offers, a cloud platform powering business in 190 countries. So it has a presence approximately in every country across the globe. It has its infrastructure in every continent across the globe. All of them are interconnected with the highly reliable AWS private network. Let's look into a brief history of AWS, how this particular cloud platform evolved. In 2003, Chris Pinkham and Benjamin Black presented the idea of an integrated suite of web services. In 2004, AWS released its first service called SimpleQ or SimpleQ service. This service was a kind of a message queue, MQ, or just like how the Apache Kafka works. It is primarily used to receive the messages and store them in the form of queue or in the form of orders, and the queue was polled by the backend team for processing the orders. In the year 2006, AWS was officially relaunched with Amazon S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, which is one of the popular service of AWS in terms of storage, in terms of object storage. In 2007, Amazon EC2 service and Simple Database were launched. Again, the EC2 is primarily a service through which we can create a virtual servers, we can create virtual machines, and it is also one of the important service, one of the most widely used service offered by AWS. In the year 2009, Amazon launched Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC, and it offered the users to create their own private cloud environment on the AWS platform. In 2010, retail sites of Amazon.com moved to AWS. So we know Amazon.com, which is one of the popular e-commerce platform for buying products, that was completely moved on the AWS. So now the Amazon.com is completely powered on the Amazon Web Services. In the year 2012, AWS held its first reInvent conference. This is a platform where the new technology, the upcoming technologies, or any changes that AWS is planning to offer, those are discussed. In the year 2013, AWS started providing certification courses for various different engineers like computer engineers, IT professionals and all. And that's where the AWS Solution Architect Associate and other certification programs started. In the year 2015, AWS got profitable with a revenue of $6 billion, quite a big one. In the year 2017, AWS and DXC Technologies announced an expanded alliance. In the year 2019, AWS reported 37% yearly growth and accounted for 12% of Amazon's revenue. And by the year 2022, Amazon has released a preview of Code Whisperer, one of its newest AI tools for programmers. It's a very dynamic public cloud and it keeps on making a lot of changes as well. So we have to be always up to date whenever we work on the AWS. Market trend. The worldwide cloud computing market is expected to reach around close to $600 billion by 2023, which is way high, very big. Salary of AWS professionals are also going to be big, around close to $160,000 with an AWS profile. Demand for AWS professionals, 60% of cloud computing jobs require AWS related skills. So there will be a huge demand. Still at present, there is a lot of demand of AWS professionals as most of the organizations are using this particular platform for their resources. What are the skills covered in this particular training module? Primarily, we'll be covering up the VPC, which is a virtual private cloud. We'll be covering up AWS security and IAM, that is Identity Access Management. We'll be covering up AWS storage services, container services, and also many more. Why we should go for AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. The AWS Solution Architect course provides an opportunity to design solutions that incorporate AWS services to meet current business requirements and future projected needs. AWS Solution Architect Associate gives you a label that you have a good understanding about the AWS essential services, and you can design, even you can deploy, plan and manage the architectures on the AWS cloud. You can design architectures that are secure, resilient, high performing and cost optimized as well. You can review existing solutions and determine the improvements as well. Learning path. In the course outline, first we'll be talking about the course introduction. We'll be talking about the AWS core concepts, compute and related features. We'll be talking about storage services, various different types of storage services and its features. We'll be talking about the networking and the IP addressing part, along with virtual private cloud, the VPC, and content delivery. We'll be talking about the databases. In the databases, I'll be covering up SQL and NoSQL based databases. What are the differences and how we use them? And then I'll be covering up security and identity access management, the IAM section. I'll be talking about the serverless and the application services. What are the serverless and the application services and where they are used? And also regarding monitoring and automation services that will help you to monitor the metrics on your AWS resources, as well as automate your solutions as well. I'll be talking about the container services. Here we'll be understanding the concept of Docker and containers and how we can use these container services on AWS. Let's look into the exam format of AWS Solution Architect Associate. The official exam information: exam name, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, SAAC03. So this has been changed. Earlier it was SAAC02. Now recently AWS has introduced a new model. In the exam format, you would get around 65 multiple choice questions and even multiple response questions as well. The exam duration is going to be around 130 minutes. The exam language, you can choose English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, and simplified Chinese. Official exam cost is going to be around $150, the US dollars. The practice exam cost is going to be around USD 20. So you can always appear for the practice exam to understand your preparation before moving ahead with the main exam. The delivery method: either you can appear for the exam in the testing center, the Prometric testing center, or you can go for online proctored exam from any location as well. Let's get started.